And Afghan police have also reported that 8 women and a child have been killed by a roadside bomb in the capital. This all coming not long after NATO handed control over Afghanistan to local forces. RT's Tom Barton now joining me live here in the studio to talk further about this. Tom, thanks. Good to see you again this morning. The timing of the attack, many are saying it couldn't be any more symbolic. How did the handover go in general, of security, that is?
Yeah, it was last week when the International Security Assistance Force, led by NATO, handed over for the first time since 2001 a security lead to Afghan local forces. They'll stay there till 2014 to provide backup, and it seems they may need to after this attack. The fact that insurgents were able to attack the presidential palace in the heart of Kabul, the centre of Afghan power, is going to be unnerving some people, especially at this time. The Afghan-led response to this attack, the police chief, the local police chief, says that they managed to suppress the insurgents and stop all of that action within 2 hours. So they achieved... They did OK, they did all right, but this is the centre of Kabul. They have all the resources around them. Further out in the countryside, who knows how they could have...
That could have been a very different story indeed. Tom, when it comes to the pullout of American and NATO forces from Afghanistan, are they combining the pullout with some sort of diplomatic process to really try and, well, heal the country, fix the country and bring about some sort of long-term peace?
They are trying to. These peace talks have been mooted for quite a while, and their Qatar office has been opened by the Taliban. They haven't renounced their violence as regards at the same time as these negotiations, which raises a lot of questions. Can you do both? But this attack came before the very press conference due to discuss that issue. So obviously a lot of people will be quite sort of shocked that they were going to discuss peace talks, and then this attack happens at that very same moment. There are problems as well with the peace talks. Karzai wants them to be Afghan-led. At the moment, some rubbing up against between the coalition forces and Karzai's negotiators, they wanting to do it themselves.
But what about, I mean, when it comes to these negotiations and really trying to get a serious set of peace talks implemented in Afghanistan for the future of it all, why do you think America wants or even finds the need to negotiate with the Taliban? They've been at war with the Taliban for roughly 10, 12 years.
Yes, I mean, a lot of people have said, you know, yeah, the Taliban has clearly shown itself just today that it is not beyond trying anything it can in what it considers a situation of war to kill and destroy Afghan and NATO forces there. I think it's hoped that it's a multi-pronged approach, you know, as the State Department said. We're going to try both with military force, give the Afghans their lead in security and negotiate as well. Whether that can succeed, especially at the time when the Taliban is still pursuing attacks like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, a few minutes ago, you mentioned the whole issue of the timing of this attack on the presidential palace in Kabul, the timing of the attack coinciding with the timing of peace talks with the Taliban at the same venue as well. Do you think that sends a pretty clear message as to what Taliban officials, how they think, how they feel about this peace process?
It may do. I mean, as I said, they have opened that office in Qatar. Perhaps that's just window dressing, you know, and they're not really serious about peace talks at all. And the potential is there for Hamid Karzai, for the US and for the NATO-led forces to look very silly if the Taliban feels that they've suckered them in to a pretend peace settlement and then use it, you know, let them drop their guard and then attack them. I mean, it's very difficult to know whether it'll go ahead on any of those fronts, but certainly the US and the Afghans still hopeful that they can get something out of talking to the Taliban.
Of course. All right, RT's Tom Barton there. The latest on this massive attack on the presidential palace in Kabul this morning. The latest on that from you. Perhaps if there's more to come, we'll check in with you throughout the day. RT's Tom Barton. Thank you. Now, Stephen Zunas, I spoke to him a bit earlier here on the programme. He's a professor of international studies at the University of San Francisco. He believes that no matter how strong the Afghan army may be, it'll still never win, as people in the country are deeply opposed to the current government.
The problem is that even if they're very well trained, even if they have the very best equipment, the strength of the Afghan government relative to the Taliban and other forms of resistance doesn't have credibility with the Afghan people. And while the vast majority of Afghans do not subscribe to the Taliban's extremist ideology, many are very frustrated with the corruption, ineptitude, and arbitrariness of the government, including ongoing acts of repression. They're resentful of the foreign presence to prop up this government. And it's this kind of environment that leads to the rise of extremists. So it's not just a security question alone.